Welcome back to another episode of the CyberVault. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Bill Noto. Bill is co-founder and CRO of Hillstrong Security. Hillstrong are a startup on a mission to reshape how we think about securing manufacturing operations. Bill's been in the trenches of early-stage security innovation, and today he's here to share what it really takes to build a company, to raise funding, and bring a product from R&D into reality. So we're going to deep dive into the challenges of raising a round, of building in and out of stealth, and the lessons learned from shaping a product while still in research and development. But before we dive into all of that, Bill, pleasure to have you on. Why don't you take a couple of minutes and maybe introduce us to yourself in a little bit more detail?
Sure, Katie, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm thrilled to be with you on the CyberVault. So I've been with Hillstrong since 2025, and I'm having so much fun on this team. Before being in this company, I was at Clarity for 2 years and Fortinet for 2 years before that. And I spent about 12 years at GE in the wind business and the digital business, working on SCADA and control systems and wind farm technology, and then securing those things. So I've been in this OT security space for quite a while, and really thrilled to be helping lead a startup to do something new.
Definitely very exciting times for you. And I think you've worked, I think most people are going to recognize the names that you mentioned there. And I think kind of the experience that you brought to the table is what really makes what you're doing at Hillstrong exciting. So, I mean, why don't we just start from the beginning? Because obviously you guys haven't been out of stealth for too long. You're kind of still in the early phases of really going to market. But let's just set the foundations. What problem is Hillstrong setting out to solve? Why is now the time to tackle what you guys are bringing to the table?
Sure. So Hillstrong started out as a consulting company focused on OT security, and we continue to do that work. One of the challenges we've realized occurs in consulting is oftentimes consultants come in and do some work, and then the work might sit in a drawer somewhere and nothing really changes in the organization. And that's a big problem. So for example, like a company comes in, has us do a risk assessment for them. We have a bunch of findings, it'd say like, you got to fix X, Y, and Z. And then for one reason or another, it doesn't actually get fixed. So that's a big problem in the OT security consulting space. We realized there's an issue with getting things done, with making improvement happen in the security space. And so we've launched this resilient offering as a new way of doing OT security execution. And I'm excited to talk about it in more detail, but it's a new thing. And we're trying to address the problem of improvement not happening. You know what I mean? Analysis happens, but then paralysis sets in and it doesn't get better. And we're here to make it better.
Yeah, I think that's literally the stigma that comes around consulting, to be fair. It can be expensive, and a lot of the time it doesn't always, like you say, doesn't necessarily can identify the problem, but it doesn't always solve the problem. And obviously it depends kind of what you're looking at from the security aspects. But I think it would actually be really interesting to kickstart with that, because what you just mentioned there is the fact that you've pivoted from being a consulting only company to now being a SaaS company. I mean, they're kind of, they're different offerings. There's different ways to go to market about that, and obviously there's all the R&D and everything that comes into play of actually building something. Mm-hmm. I mean, what's that transformation looked like? How have you gone about doing that? Because it's no easy feat.
It's no easy feat, and the people in our company who are doing consulting, but everybody else in the company is doing everything. So while my title is CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, I'm also writing code. And our company is small enough where everyone can wear multiple hats, and that's great. No one gets upset about stepping on one another's toes. So we have a number of full-time developers and a number of full-time consultants, and that's how we're managing the company right now. But it is a transitional period, and we're also looking to raise some investment so that we can do some of these things a little bit faster. Has that answered your question?
Well, no, it absolutely has. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's about kind of having the awareness of okay, where do we need to take things, and I think it's kind of what you mentioned there in recognizing people's strengths. If you've got individuals that are so strong in consulting and that's their job, but then I suppose the great thing about working in a startup is everybody having that agility to wear multiple hats, and you need that versatile experience. I mean, when you look at it, kind of security products can take years to fully mature. There's so much kind of R&D that really goes into it. You guys are obviously kind of out of stealth. You're kind of, you're there, you've got a product offering, but you're still kind of in that innovation and that development piece. I mean, what would you say kind of the hardest part about being in market while still also fine-tuning things is?
Absolutely. So our product, while announced, is not generally available at this point. You can't just go to our website and buy it. And it's not quite that simple. We're in this interesting phase where we've announced it, and we're talking about it. We've got, we can do demos of the product, but I would say it's like, it's not fully baked. It's still gestating, and it is a little bit awkward. But it's also really fun because it's a very nimble time. It's a very agile time where we're, tuning the strategy as we go. Every time we talk to somebody, either a prospect or an investor, or given like an existing consulting client or a potential SaaS customer, every time we have one of those conversations, we get a little bit smarter about what the product really needs to be and what's important about it. So that's fun. We also have this like pretty dynamic and agile mechanism going where we have like the people focusing on what the product should be, including our design team, iterating on screens and UI, and then our engineers can go and build it pretty quickly and then put it in front of people and do demos and learn. And as we do that, we keep making enhancements and subtle changes to make it better. We have a platform that will build your program, execute your program, and manage your program. So build, execute, and manage. And what I mean by that is we start by building from the ground up. What is your OT security program? And that includes, what is your standard that you're going to apply to all your manufacturing facilities? What's the governance model? Like, how are you going to get there over time? How do you differentiate your sites from tier 1 sites that are most important? You can't live without them for an hour, to tier 3 sites. Maybe you can find some way to work around if there's an impact at one of those sites. And so if there is, maybe you don't invest as much on what controls apply to the different kinds of sites, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So all that is about building the program. And that includes like not just drafting the policies and drafting them in a way that makes sense, paying attention to regulatory and standards. So if you're in this industry, you might have FDA concerns. If you're in that industry, there might be automotive. Let me put that another way. If you're a pharmaceutical company, there might be FDA regulations you have to comply with. If you're a power generation company, there might be NERC CIP requirements you have to comply with. So there are all these subtleties. We use standards like 62443 and NIST CSF 2.0 to guide us. But the idea is draft a standard that makes sense for your company. What's interesting about Resilient is it's a collaboration and communication platform. So all the people that need to be part of that process are engaged. And that includes like the risk team, the compliance team, the legal team, the operations team, right? So you can draft this policy and then get feedback from everybody who's involved with it, tune it, and then publish it in a place where everyone can see what it is. And it's not just one thing, it's multiple documents and procedures and workflows. You can organize all of that and have governance around it and get the whole company on board. And the communication part is really cool. I mean, it's, we have Teams and we have SharePoint, we have email, we have all these ways of communicating, but they all require you to refer back to the work, right? With Resilient, you're communicating like in the work. So it's like you're looking at a RACI matrix or a business impact analysis or a remote access policy, and everyone can communicate with one another like on the work and see what they're talking about without having to sort of mentally context switch to get there. That's all part of building the program, and then executing it. It's a place where assessments can happen. We're going to integrate with different technologies so we can get inputs from those technologies when they're there. We don't need them, but it's a capability. And then for managing, we can report out. So you can share with both the teams you need to work with, but also with your management, with your board of directors, like the progress you're making. So you can show that you're actually reducing risk in your operational environment over time in a way that we think you couldn't before. So we think we're doing something new and interesting. Obviously, I'm pretty excited about it.
I mean, I'm excited just listening in, and I think kind of it's really interesting where you're solving so many of those gaps that I think kind of it's that like the synergy of, like you say, you know, it's being in the work and being able to have that communication piece, because otherwise the simpler you make things, the easier you make things for people, the more likely they are to adopt and stuff like that. And what you're doing is you're making the work super easy, and ultimately, you know, that's what everybody wants. You know, and kind of you've got all these great ideas, and you've started to be able to put them into a product and an offering and something that's really kind of starting to get its legs. And like you say, it may not be something that you can just hop on the website and purchase right now, but it's obviously something that is really going to be kind of purchasable, if that's a word, in the future. I mean, to kind of break it down a bit, going from that idea and the conception to actually, you know, saying this is the product we have and that we're building and that we're ready to kind of go with, what have been some of the biggest surprises and lessons and kind of part of that journey over the past several months?
Well, one thing that's really cool is, like, even though the product isn't fully baked and generally available, we have folks who want to be a part of this process who are asking us, like, to be design partners to help us build something that works for them. And I didn't realize that would happen. But so some of our existing consulting clients, for example, are saying, like, put a resilient license in my renewal because I want to be the first customer. Like, super awesome point of validation. And just, you know, I just assume that no one would want to do that. But there are folks who want to be a part of it from the beginning before it's you know, fully mature. And it makes sense, right? Because then they can influence the roadmap and they can make sure you're building something that really provides value from them early, before, you know, something's like super mature and fully is what it is. They can say, you know, this is what I need. That's also an interesting opportunity because now you have to synthesize everything you know about the market, but what you're hearing from these various design partners, and making sure that you're building something that's going to make the product better, that's going to solve multiple people's problems, not just one customer's problems.
Yeah.
But that's been a surprise, I would say.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think kind of you mentioned something there that it's kind of that you know, I don't want to say self-limiting belief, feels like the wrong word and not what I'm looking for, but it's kind of that limitation that you always set of, like, that doubt of, oh, I'm going out, like, are people definitely, you know, they're going to buy in early on. You feel like you need this perfect product to be able to have people want to get involved and buy and purchase, but actually, as you've just kind of demonstrated there, that's not the case. People love innovation, especially when it comes to security. They love being part of that journey, and they love something that's solving problems that they need solving. And so if you're kind of going to them and being like, it's not quite ready to go yet, but this is where we're at, and they're like, oh, this is a dream. This is what I really want to be part of this. I want to, you know, and I think it can be really surprising for people that that's actually a pretty common thing across security.
I think you're right. I think it also, like, there are certain conditions that need to be true. So one of them is people need to know you exist and can find you. And, like, you know, you need to have some brand recognition. So we've been doing the consulting stuff for a while. We've got great content marketing and blogging and newsletters and ebooks and white papers. All that stuff exists. So we've already got some brand presence, and we've got clients, right? Like, we've got existing consulting clients who we can say, like, hey, check this out. And they're interested, right? I think it would be hard. I'm sure people do it. You know, I imagine it would be harder starting from scratch without some relationships and some, like, presence in an industry or some stature of some sort that you can bank on. At this stage, unless you've got something that's maybe more mature that actually does something new and novel, you know.
I think that's the playbook of being in the startup phase, isn't it? It's really that how do we get our product out there? How do we market it? And that probably is why pivoting from what you've been doing in the consulting to kind of heading towards being a SaaS company has its benefits, for sure. And I think kind of another thing that's really difficult in the market, and you know, we want to talk about this, is fundraising, because when it gets to the point of fundraising, and we've spoken about this beforehand, that, you know, you want to make sure that you're not going for it because you're kind of desperately needing the money. You're going for it because you're like, hey, this is going to help us in all the right ways. May not need it, but it's definitely going to have the benefits. I mean, what's the experience been like for you, kind of where you're like, oh, well, we do already have a revenue generating arm of the business from the consulting side, but hey, we're also developing this product that we want to kind of build and have as an offering. You know, what's that experience been like for you?
It's been really interesting. We've had a lot of opportunity to pitch to different kinds of investors. This is my first time doing this, like reaching out to investors. And one of the learnings is not all like early stage or not all VCs are alike in terms of the kinds of companies they want to invest in. Some VCs want to invest only if the engineering team is in a specific country. Other VCs want to invest when there's a certain amount of maturity, like show me a functioning business model that I can pour money into and make it go bigger, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a bit of an interesting learning, I would say. And one of the things that we're finding is we're like, I don't know how to say this. Sometimes we are trying to raise money because we think we could go faster if we had some additional resources to build the product faster and to grow the go-to-market team. And to also spend money on marketing in a bigger way. Like all of these things cost money. And we're sort of financing the development we've done so far on the backs of the consulting business, which is pretty interesting too. But there's like a limit to that, right? Because you also have to do the consulting work with your consultants. And it's everything is moving so fast right now in terms of AI. By the way, we've been talking for like 15 minutes and we haven't said AI yet. So that's kind of
cool. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I should have mentioned Resilient has tons of AI in it, which it does. Part of its secret sauce is it's using AI to do all this stuff, not just on the standards and the regulatory stuff, but on like the body of our consulting work and all of the knowledge we have from doing this consulting for a while. But my point is just that development is going so much faster than it used to with AI, but also the market is evolving faster. That means not just like new solutions, but also new problems, new technical issues, new kinds of complexities that we didn't have to contend with before, new kinds of threats that we didn't have to deal with before. That's all a factor.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, it's kind of like the double-ended sword or the double-edged sword that I often talk about, because the great thing about all this adoption of AI and stuff like that, specifically when we're looking at things like Gen AI, and it's the case of, it's great from like the good guy perspective of the people that are building products, and you don't need huge development teams now to be able to build something quickly and securely, arguably. But the other caveat being, well, the other sides have it as well, and then they're kind of normally still a few steps ahead. And it's like you say, that threat vector landscape is constantly growing to a point where it's hard to predict. You don't know where it's going to head. You don't know where the new vulnerabilities are coming in. And that also then opens up a whole host of opportunities for kind of businesses similar to yourselves, where you're kind of seeing the pain points in your customers from the consulting side and saying, well, why don't we solve them? Like, why don't we, let's not wait around for someone to bring this product out. Let's do it ourselves. And that innovation side of things is what makes this space so exciting right now, because I think everybody's kind of always hesitant to predict what the market's going to be in 12, 24 and beyond that months, because it's like, you don't know, like it's so hard to see. I suppose with that in mind, what, predictions and all, what's on the cards for you guys? I mean, what is the big picture? Because you're still kind of early in getting ready, and you've got this unbelievable product you've got coming through. Obviously, kind of fundraising comes in, you're able to accelerate that growth. I mean, how are Hillstrong going to be fitting into that security landscape over the next few years?
Sure. So like right now, we're really narrowly focused on solving this challenge for manufacturing companies. Like Fortune 500 manufacturing companies would be what we would call our ideal customer profile, or ICP. But there's literally no reason why it needs to just be those. It could also be small, medium businesses. There's so many different directions we could expand this thing. Different sectors: oil and gas, critical infrastructure, transportation, ports, maritime, power generation, healthcare, like it can go on and on, retail, et cetera. All of these folks have these challenges. Right now we're focused on OT. It could grow beyond OT. We're hoping that, we do this thing, we're successful, and CIOs will be like, this is so great. I don't want it just in my operational environment. I want it for the whole enterprise. We're starting on the operational environment because that's the domain that we know the best. but we know that the technology we're building is like much more broadly applicable. There's also the managed service provider or managed security services provider route, where the thing we're creating, or like the global strategic, what's GSIs? What's the acronym I'm looking for here? Global strategic.
System integrate.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah. Global system integrators, like the Accentures and all of those companies, they could use our product to do the work they do more efficiently and better and resell it, right? They could use it internally and they could resell it to their customers too. That's a whole thing that we're not even really exploring right now, but we could and we plan to. So I don't know. There are, right now we're sort of narrowly sort of myopically focused on trying to get to general availability on like our current target, but we see all of these horizons and directions we can go, and we're going to have to be strategic about which ones we choose. That's another reason why we need investors to help us make good choices.
It's always a good thing to have. It never does any harm. But I think, kind of like you mentioned there, this is what's so exciting. It's like there's limitless opportunities. Arguably, probably one of the hardest things is being able to say, right now we need a bit of tunnel vision so we can perfect this vertical and not get sidetracked by all these exciting things. But knowing that they're on the horizon is most definitely, I imagine, what yourself and the rest of the team are absolutely, looking forward to, and what the next few years can hold is, well, truly limitless. I mean, to kind of close out on them, because it's been great to obviously unpack a bit more about you guys, and I think you've given some really good tidbits of advice of what you've been able to experience building this out and kind of the way that you've gone to market. But if you were to kind of centralize this to one piece of advice for founders that are in the early stages of building, what would you say it'd be?
I mean, I think a key one is like know your co-founders and be sure that they're people you want to hang out with a lot. And also I would, two pieces of advice. One is make sure you love the problem you're trying to solve. I'm like super excited about the work we're doing right now. I haven't had like a holiday or a vacation day in quite a while. This is not sustainable, but I'm so excited about it that I'm energized. You know what I mean? I'm not working like 10-hour days on Saturday and Sunday, but I'm always working something, some amount. So know and like your co-founders. I think it's super important that you have a team of people who are not exactly alike, but who work well together and get along together. If you're all the same, you're going to suffer from groupthink. So you want some diversity in terms of how you think and the problems you solve. But you also really want to get along, because you're going to be around these people a lot, and there's going to be conflicts. You're going to have different ideas about which direction to go. Anytime you're with the same people all the time, you have to make sure you have like a good way to like repair any ruptures that might happen, right? So that would be my first piece of advice. Is like you have to have good communication with them, including like, hey, you're kind of driving me nuts right now, if that's the case. But those would be the two things. Love the problem and make sure that you love your co-founders.
Yeah, I mean, arguably very valuable advice. I think it's really easy to sometimes forget how much people really put into kind of the world of startups, like in terms of time, commitment, energy, passion. Like there's a reason that not everybody can do it, because it takes a lot. And sometimes I think everybody's like, oh, I've got a great idea. And it's like, that's always great. But the idea is only an idea until, it's the execution piece that arguably is the hardest part. So you need the right people alongside you to do it. And you've got to be wanting to put in the time and the resource. But well, thank you so much for joining me here today, Bill. Honestly, it's been a great episode. It's been great to unpack the exciting stuff that you're doing over at Hillstrong. And like I mentioned, I think you've had some really great and valuable piece of advice for anybody that's in a similar kind of early stage as you guys are. And obviously to anybody that's been tuning in here, if you, especially if you're working kind of within the manufacturing space, I'd recommend the reach out. But it's obviously, I'd say tag along, watch this journey, and as you guys continue to evolve, I think this is definitely something that should be on people's radars. But that's it for today. So to our listeners, as always, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to share this episode with any of your security peers. Get connected with us on LinkedIn. Get connected with Bill and the team on LinkedIn for sure. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time for more conversations that are shaping cyber.
Thanks, Katie.